So glad you're here. I'm glad that we could reconnect and we can share your story. So to get started, tell us about your current role, what you do, and the kind of impact you're making.
My name is Erika Volker. I currently serve as an organizational development manager for an international company specializing in pharmaceuticals. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. And I am just in awe of the opportunities that I have had throughout my career. And in my current position, I work for a IT pharmaceutical company. So we work in a variety of spaces, but pharmaceuticals is the primary area. And I serve as an organizational development manager. So I am an individual contributor at this time, and I have the opportunity to do things all culture and career at my company. So we have established what we call the Culture Collective. And so it's our local culture groups. The company I work for is a global company, and so then we're trying to improve and increase employee engagement throughout the world, which is really kind of fun and exciting. And then we also have those local groups, and then we have a company-wide initiative based on our employee engagement survey. So we look at various initiatives or targets around how do we improve the life and work-life balance and the outcomes within the organization. And then another arm of all of that is career development. So at the company, it's really important for us to grow our people and help with learning and development and provide them the tools and resources they need to be able to do that.
So glad that is the area that I absolutely love. So all of my questions are going to be relevant to that. So just to get started, when did you first realize that HR was the right career path for you?
So it was interesting. In hindsight, you always look back and you think, oh, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. But I think that all of the steps that I've made in my career have helped me to be a better HR professional. If I had not gone on that other path, I probably wouldn't have the perspectives that I do have. Even in college, when I was in my traditional college program, a traditional college student, I looked at HR, but I thought, I can't do that. I'm not one of those people. I looked at HR at that time, but then I ended up choosing to continue with my elementary ed degree and a minor in health. And then I worked at a local cooperative extension here in Omaha, and I taught nutrition and money management skills to food stamp recipients. Concurrently earned my master's degree in urban studies, and then ended up working here at Metro. So I was the formerly known as the Tech Prep and Dual Credit Coordinator. But at that time, I worked a lot around workforce development and how do we prepare students for the work of the future. And so I had an opportunity to work with our local SHRM chapter, HRAM, and that's where I really started dipping my toe into the human resources functions and getting a better understanding. Fast forward a few years, I had built a national reputation around workforce development and working with K-12 and post-secondary institutions. And our daughter was 18 months old, and it was time for me to make a personal change and a personal shift. And so I had applied for a local health system, had an instructional designer, and so I was able to transfer a lot of my skills from that to then human resources, and that's where I really got the bug.
That's a fascinating career path, and it always fascinates me when we have our professionals that share their journey, and most people, the majority, kind of fell into HR. So I love that all of the experiences that you had led you there. So what's something about HR that surprised you once you were actually in the field?
There is so much to HR. Human resources has a hand in anything people related, and we don't recognize the significant impact that human resources can have. I think what I found overwhelming were all of the laws, the rules, the regulations. But I think once we have an understanding of where all those came from a historical perspective, it's a whole lot easier to build that bank of knowledge and then lean on that as laws change, policies change, both from a federal or a state level.
Most of my students tell me that is one of the harder parts, is really understanding all of those different the laws, the legal regulations, and all of the I think it is probably the most apprehension in that career field is the compliance part of that. So moving on and thinking about your experiences in your career, what's been one of the most rewarding experiences that you've had so far?
I think that's probably building the employee resource groups at our local hospital system. So I had the opportunity to work on our employee engagement survey. And at that time, there was a lot of verbatim from the survey or comments from the survey that outlined that they were in a large portion of the population were looking for employee resource groups. And so I was able to establish 5 employee resource groups for the healthcare system here. When the healthcare system merged with another national organization, it was the first pilot ERG group for the entire healthcare system. So that was very exciting. And this particular healthcare system now has over 150,000 employees. So we were able to positively influence and impact a whole nation of healthcare providers with the work that we did here in Omaha.
And I can see why it really directed, I think, where you're at now, all of that employee experience part. Can you share a challenge that you've had in the past that just really tested you and what you learned from it?
I love data, but raw data can be dangerous. And so I think it's really important for I think it's really important for HR professionals to take care of their own health and their own mental health and to really protect your time and your effort and your energy. At one particular time, I was overtaxed and I sent out performance scores for the entire division. It was a service line. And so every leader was able to see their leader as well as the other leaders' performance reviews.
Oh.
And yeah, so, you think you hide those columns and you don't. 'Cause you can unhide them. So that was a very embarrassing experience. It was very humbling, but it was also a good learning opportunity to take care of myself because I'm only human and I do make mistakes. They gave me a lot of grace with that situation. But again, it was very mortifying.
Oh, yeah, but definitely a lesson learned.
Oh, yes.
I'm glad that you shared that, though, because as you said, it could be, career mortifying, and I'm glad that you were able to, respond to that and grow from it. What's one area of HR that you're excited to grow into?
I'm really excited about the application of AI. It is just really exciting, and opportunities just abound there. So how do we create agents that will then help us as HR professionals not spend so much time on those policies and on I call them nitnoity processes or those task processes, and really get back to working with people. I think that the real gem of human resources is building on those relationships, and how do we monopolize on that and use AI in order to leverage some of those day-to-day tasks and maximize those. So we're currently looking at how do we create an agent to communicate, just have a good search function for what is my PTO policy, or if I'm interested in a career development plan, how do I access those resources, or what does the tuition reimbursement policy say, and just help our employees get there faster as opposed to doing searches.
And all those questions that somebody usually calls and asks about on a pretty frequent basis.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thinking about your career again, which skills or mindsets have been the most valuable for you in navigating your career?
Because of my circuitous path with HR, I had a lot of opportunity to learn about metacognition and how people learn and adult learning principles. And one of those concepts is around human-centered design. And as I have worked in each of my career paths or areas, I try to look at things from a cultural anthropological perspective as opposed to these are the policies that we have to enforce. I try to look at the culture associated with that industry or within that group, understand that culture, and then apply policies, programs, activities to meet the needs of the people in those groups. So I believe that both technology and processes are built by humans, and humans should not be controlled by policies, processes, or, I mean, there are federal policies that we have to, but processes or technology, and that we are in control and that we should be manipulating those systems as opposed to the systems manipulating us. So as I have looked at various employment opportunities, I research the companies that I'm applying for or applying to, and I really look at what is their culture and do they also support a human-centered design approach. And if they don't, then I don't really give much credit or credence, to that particular company or organization. And so I think looking at things from that human-centered design has helped me navigate my career.
I like you sharing that because our students, I think, when they're looking at starting their careers in HR, a lot of them are looking for something that would be in alignment of what their interest is in helping people. A lot of my students say, they are choosing this career because they want to help people. I like that you said this, but what are some of the strategies that have helped you identify what the culture is like before you take a job offer?
So this is the fun application of AI as well. So you can plug in their mission statement or their core values or guiding principles, and then ask AI to generate interview questions from the interviewee's perspective with the interviewer. And I think within human resources, we have some of those red flags that pop up. And so to just encourage students to really interview the companies they're applying to, or once they have that interview, make sure that they are advocating for what they're looking for, and then use those red flags or orange flags as indicators of if you want to move forward with that position as well. I recognize that we want to help people, but I think empower people is probably a better approach to human resources. We are moving away from helping people so much from I'm going to help you find your next career opportunity, or I'm going to help you create an action plan based on your engagement results, or I'm going to help you with this termination. Instead, I think that as human resources, we really need to think more about empowering leaders, empowering employees, so that they can then utilize the tools and resources in order to maximize their career. So I think instead of walking in front or bringing people along, if we can think about walking beside our employees and leaders, I think that would be a good mindset to have.
Excellent advice, I think, also in thinking about what it is that you would actually be doing practically. So very good. If you could go back and give your younger HR self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Go to the College of Business and find out what that HR program was.
Oh, really explore that then. Yeah, because
Instead of just looking at the building and walking by on my way to my education classes, I should have walked in and talked to an advisor. So
that's good to know, because I think that a lot of the times in the college experience, you kind of get set on, this is my college degree and I'm just plugging away at the classes. Certainly, I think that being open to those other opportunities is good. So thinking about that and thinking about that early career for someone without any HR experience, what's a smart way for them to break into the field?
So anytime anyone can get a paid or unpaid internship, it's extremely valuable. So whether an individual has workplace experience in the past or doesn't, that is a great way to get their foot in the door. So I'm don't know. Or do you require internships as a part of your program or some sort of experiential learning?
So there's no requirement in our career certificate, but it is encouraged. And then if a student continues with their associate's degree, there are those opportunities. A lot of our students who are in the career certificate have work experience. So in thinking about it from that perspective, how do you think is the better approach to maybe look at it as transferable work experience?
Sure, yeah. So if they currently are employed or have work experience, then I strongly encourage job shadowing or also asking if they could then transition into that area. So really networking with their current employer or current leader at wherever they're employed, and then ask for their advocacy to then start to maybe do a 25-75% split or maybe a 50-50 split, and then migrate or move into a particular role within human
I
resources.
like that. That's a great way to look at that. Maybe even be working on a project that could be, company wide. I do think that there's something to be said about people taking ownership for their career planning and pathing. So certainly having those conversations and exploring them. Once they're in their new HR role, what's the best way to keep learning and growing in the field?
There's so many resources available now. So it's, I think that keeping on top of the news is really important. If you work for a company that is multi-state or multinational, keeping on top of what laws are being proposed, what laws are being passed in various states is really important. And then looking at consider how that's going to impact the local, your business. And then there's always formal education. So being a good steward and modeling the tuition reimbursement policy at the organization is always a great way to model benefits available through that company. So strongly encourage those aspects as well.
When you sat down and started, you talked about being a member of HRAM, so Human Resource Association of the Midlands. How has that experience impacted your career growth as well as your career opportunities?
So I think from the onset, I thought, I couldn't be in HR for whatever. We all have these self-talk, and so I thought, well, I can't be in HR, and then being a member of HRAM helped me to recognize I could, and then HRAM has just given me a huge network of other professionals that I was able to tap into. A woman I worked on a project with almost 20 years ago, she and I now work together at the same company. So I did message her and say, hey, just wanted to let you know we worked on this project together. So if my name or face looks familiar, it's aged a bit, but here we are. So that was a really fun experience.
So as a new professional, how do you stand out and build those relationships?
I am what is being termed as an ambivert now. So there are times when I like to be an extrovert and times that I am an introvert. And so I recognize that those with a lot of woo are Gallup strengths, or those that I do identify as extroverts, going to a HRAM or a SHRM networking opportunity is not overwhelming. Those of us where we do find that to be rather overwhelming, I always try to find the wallflowers. And you can always find them because they are either sitting by themselves at a table or they're at literally in a corner. And so I decided that I would approach them. One of my top 5 Gallup strengths is individualization. And so I have my business card and I just meet all the wallflowers. And then we all get to know each other. I don't have to feel overwhelmed by walking to a group of 5 or 10 people. And we both walk away with a positive and we build our network that way. I always ask, may I connect with you on LinkedIn? And I don't keep business cards anymore. We don't have the Rolodex anymore. So that's my virtual Rolodex. And so I continue to just collect names and reach out to people and then try to maintain those relationships as well. So like things that they post or comment to them or provide them some resources. I think in today's age, we have so much information that it gets overwhelming. So when someone reaches out and hands you a nugget of knowledge, that's really helpful.
I find that also with when I am teaching about networking. So your approach is very strategic. I do like that because the wallflower also is probably like, thank God somebody came up to me to talk to me. But I think also when I think the overwhelm of that can be the expectation. Oh, I need to, make all these connections. What I tell my students is meet somebody and try to be a service to them. So I like that you said you may share maybe a nugget of information or make a connection, and maintaining that relationship in some way, whether it's similar to maybe our relationship where, we connected 6 years ago and you really helped me out in developing the HR program. And then as we were growing and this podcast became available, I was like, I really want to hear about your career journey.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, I'd like to talk a little bit about some HR hot topics. So, but actually, when I came up with these hot topics, I looked at employee experience and well-being. And so when you sat down, you're like, this is what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, wow, this is great that all of my hot topics kind of center around that. But a lot of them we've already talked about a little bit. So the AI, artificial intelligence part of that, how do you see AI then improving the employee experience and engagement?
I think with AI and the employee experience, we have lots of opportunities to allow the employee to be more empowered with his or her learning opportunities. And so when we integrate maybe an AI agent and we can populate all of the HR resources from a SharePoint site or a file management system, and then we can then tailor what information that employee needs specifically to what they've been asking for. So I've been on phone calls in the past where someone will ask a question and I will give them what I think is the answer, but that wasn't really what they were looking for. They were actually looking for something else. And so we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what it is that exactly what they're looking for. Whereas I think with an AI agent, we would be able to mine that information a lot faster and be able to get them what they need, which increases and improves their employee engagement and their employee experience, especially with HR.
That's fascinating. I'm not quite sure where the college is on that, but in your organization then, are you guys at an agent
Level?
Yeah, I don't even know how to say it. Do you have agents? Yeah.
Not yet. The whole company has Copilot chat for business, so we don't have to worry about uploading files or making sure that files are secure, or we still don't put any patient information or employee information, things like that. But if there are files on our regular OneDrive that are acceptable for kind of anybody to see, then we can upload those and then not worry. When at my previous employer, I never put any information, not even the name of the company, into ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini because I just wanted to protect the company. So it's really nice to have that flexibility. We are moving and migrating to agents, but then there are a lot of questions around governance. So who gets to create an agent? How many agents are there? What's the architecture of the agent? Do we move from agents to, I think they're called crews? So like a whole lots of discussion that comes out about all of that. It's challenging. It's a fun time to be.
It is, and it's important for HR to be at the table
Exactly.
for those conversations.
Because people are involved.
Yes, and a lot of information. So it is going to be a lot to wrangle, and it is, being kind of at the very beginning of how this is going to look and the impact. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about employee well-being. So what's one approach that you've seen that works well for supporting employee well-being?
So a large percentage of our employees at my current employer are remote employees. And so we have an employee resource group that focuses on employee well-being and neurodiversity. So they have combined mission there. And they were able to bring in yoga, online yoga and meditation once a week for all of our employees, whether they are physically site-based or remote, and now we are folding that into our overall benefits package. So I love how an EIG, or we call them impact groups, or ERG, can positively impact the business and then fold it into running water benefits. And so that was really, really exciting.
I'm curious how you maintain that employee engagement with remote work, because I think that's always kind of been the like, we can't keep track of people. They can, it's the trust. I think part of it's the
Yes.
trust and allowing people to do their work in the way that they want to do their work. So how was that already established, or have you been a big part of putting together a program that supports that?
In my with my current employer, it has been remote since COVID, and which I think is endemic across the country. I do want to say before I go to that, though, that in Nebraska we don't have a large workforce to draw from. So for employers to think that folks are going to uproot their lives and move to Nebraska, or that we have 100% of the talent that we need already in our state or like within a tri-state area, I think that's unrealistic. And so I think for companies, and then also HR can help leverage or influence owners, leaders, managers to be more adaptive to a remote workforce. I think it's really, really important. And a question that was asked was, well, why do we have so many people in remote locations? Part of that is cost of living. So if a hub is in California or in New York, or even in some of the other areas with higher costs of living, if you can hire employees at a lower cost of living, you still equitable pay, but the cost of living is less. That's something that we work on in HR is comparable pay, but you also have to look at the regionality of that and how far their dollar can stretch. I think we need to be more mindful and more open to looking at a remote workforce. I think the way that we manage that remote workforce is through key objectives or key indicators, OKRs, KPIs, and or SMART goals, and then have regular touch base. And when remote workers are producing output, I don't know that it matters how many mouse clicks they have in an hour. And if we put more, again, going back to the technology, right? If we put more parameters and more restrictions on people, we will inherently look for ways to get around those restrictions. And so let's empower people. Let's let them do their job. And if they're falling and not doing their job, there's somebody else likely who can do it better.
Yeah, I like that you also mentioned that, the diversity of talent. So not only is it about, remote work, but it's also about attracting and retaining the talent that you need in the organization.
Exactly.
So one more question on a hot topic. What's one change you'd love to see organizations make to improve how employees experience work?
So I've been toying with this idea of work-life integration. We talk about work-life balance, but when I think about my formal education, I went to math class, and then I went to social studies class, and then science, and then language arts class, and my electives. But in the world of work and in the world of life, I don't have subjects in my life. And so when I need to respond to a message from a family member, I have the freedom and leeway to do that in my professional career. Not all folks do in their places of employment. But I'd really like us to look more about that integration. And for those occupations that don't require dependency on another person or process, like when I think about manufacturing, that item's going to come down the line and I have to take care of that. And if I don't, then somebody else is going to, experience that repercussion. For those that are not dependent on that work, then I think some more freedom and flexibility and adjustments could be made. So if my highest productivity is at 7:30 in the morning, why should I start work at 9? Or if my highest productivity is 3 in the morning, then can I maximize my time there and then flex my other time and do the things that I need to do to take care of myself? So I think that's something that we haven't really delve into too much. We talk about it at a surface level, but we say, oh, that would be great. But I haven't seen many companies really embrace that.
I would love to hear more about that and invite you in because I'm sure you're probably doing a little bit of research around that and maybe some ways to think about ways that organizations could think about changing the way that employees work, the way that they do their work, and when they're most energized with their work. So I do like that you shared that. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been such a great conversation. So thank you so much for sharing your journey as well as your thoughts. If our listeners could remember one takeaway from this conversation, our discussions, what would you want them to remember?
Change is inevitable, and we have to be adaptable to change. And as HR professionals, it is incumbent upon us to lead that change. So again, self-care is really important. Many of us chose this profession because we want to help grow and develop and improve and help people, even though we do want to help people.
We're people.
We are people. And I think it's important for that self-care, but also to anticipate what's next. So the only way that we know how to anticipate what's next is to be fully knowledgeable of the business, have full line of sight as to what is it that we do, how do we do it, why do we do it, what are the outcomes, who are the customers, who are the stakeholders, understanding that aspect, and then working on the national aspects or international aspects as well of how is X going to impact my workforce, my people, the way I do things, any policies, processes. So it's that learning, continuous learning, and always but taking care of yourself at the same time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.